Really glad you took the time out today to spend some time with us. Obviously, with this giant ransomware attack dominating the news the past week, there's a lot to delve into. I'm sure your customers are probably pinging you and wondering what you can do to help them. I'm going to spend a little time talking today about the WannaCry epidemic and ransomware in general. But if you feel like you're pretty well up on that stuff, I hope you will stay around because we're also going to spend some time talking about the solution that Acronis has introduced that specifically targets ransomware. It's an extension to our backup family of data protection products, and I think it's quite exciting and presents a real opportunity for you to deliver some real value to your customers in a time when this threat is only going to get worse for reasons that I'm going to get into. So let's dive right into it here with a quick look at ransomware. I like to say that in this particular time of a surging malware threat, this is a time for you to be a superhero to your customers. A real opportunity for you to give them the confidence that they need to do business in what can be a kind of a terrifying world. It's not just criminals that are in the game these days. We have state actors to worry about, but you've got some solutions that you can offer them that can help them go out with confidence and conduct their business without worrying that some malware attack is going to take their business down. And I think it's a great way that you can position yourself as that kind of consultative, supportive kind of partner to them. Clearly, threats like WannaCry have a terrible cost. It's not just the impact on businesses and consumers, individuals who are losing personal data, financial data that's important to them. This can actually put lives at risk when a hospital, for example, like Britain's National Health Service, is taken down by a ransomware attack. That really, the human stakes there are quite high. What we like to say about our new capability is that it helps you go on the offensive against ransomware. So instead of just mopping up after an attack, which is absolutely incredibly valuable, you can actually punch first a little bit at ransomware. And so being able to help your customer go on the attack against it is a good place to be. So I want to talk very briefly about ransomware. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a family of computer viruses that encrypt your files with encryption that's so strong that you can't hope to decrypt them through brute force methods. If you don't get the key, you're never going to get access to your files again. So what this virus does is quietly encrypts your files. When it's finished with that dirty business, it throws up a ransom note. The note that I have here is the actual WannaCry ransomware attack ransom note, and says pay up a ransom in Bitcoin to an anonymous account so the criminals can't be traced. And if you don't do it, we will not provide your decryption key and you'll never see your files again. And there's usually a timer on it where the ransom goes up after a few days, kind of urging people to kind of panic and act quickly and just pay up. Of course, that's a bad bet. You know, the FBI and certainly Acronis discourages our customers from paying that ransom. Probably one time in 5, the criminals don't deliver the promised remedy. So really, you need to help them build defenses because paying the ransom is not a long-term solution. Now, while WannaCry kind of put this ransomware thing on the map for the general public, you know, the New York Times, CNN, BBC News finally devoting headline news to it, those of us who have been around for a while know that this is not a new threat. Ransomware gangsters managed to collect $1 billion in ransoms last year, according to the FBI. And these were ransomware variants that weren't nearly as sophisticated or lethal as the WannaCry attack. So even the sort of pedestrian, everyday kind of ransomware is a serious threat to your customers. And as we're going to show, it's really growing quickly. I thought this statistic from Osterman Research was a really interesting one. They studied, they did a survey of 500 businesses in the U.S., the UK, Germany, and France, and found out that nearly half of them had suffered a ransomware attack in the past year. And it's not hard to imagine how that number might be actually a little higher, because most folks don't go around fessing up to having been had their business taken down, had some critical customer information or business back office information put at risk. So anytime you see numbers reporting incidences of attacks, you can probably inflate those in your mind, because nobody likes to talk about having failed to defend their servers and their PCs against malware attacks. If you look at Gartner Group, they are projecting geometric growth in the number of attacks over at least the next 3 years. That's a terrifying hockey stick, and they say that's in spite of folks taking what measures they can to defend against them. I want to talk a little bit about how we got to this path, how we got into a situation where, despite the efforts of a very clever, innovative IT security industry and very smart people on the business IT side fighting this problem, that it's growing at such an exponential rate. And basically what's happened is that the malware development and delivery business has gone from being a cottage industry where you typically had small groups of very expert bad guy coders who had deep skills in operating systems, applications, network, security, a very rare kind of collection of skills, and they would custom build software and end up distributing it themselves. What the bad guys have done now, particularly around ransomware, is taken a page from our business, from a software as a service industry. So now you have small groups of highly skilled coders who are building very modular software. So if a countermeasure comes up against is developed against a particular piece of, say, ransomware, they can just bust that piece out, optimize a new portion of the malware that can evade that defense, and they don't have to recode the whole thing. They're also packaging these chunks of malware up for distribution. They make them remotely manageable so they can keep an eye on how well they're progressing. But again, these folks are focused very tightly on defeating the countermeasures of the IT security business. Much like the software as a service business, they've enlisted a vast army of, think of them as distributors or resellers. These are folks who don't have any particular skills around developing malware, but they may have some skills in crafting phishing emails. Their job is to get that ransomware onto many endpoints as they possibly can by whatever means that they can. But getting into that business and taking a cut of the profits that they collect, again, it was $1 billion last year. It's probably going to be $3 to $5 billion in ransoms collected this year. To get into that is trivially easy for them. You really don't need to have great IT or security or hacking skills to get into the front end of the ransomware business. You know, just ideally you've got some dubious ethics and live in a place with, you know, no extradition treaties with the countries that you're targeting. They even split the revenue up like software as a service. The back end takes a 30% cut of the ransom, and the distributors get 70% of every bit of ransom that they collect. So it's suddenly a very attractive business for a whole host of people who don't know much more than how to open a browser. Here's an example of how easy it is if you want to get in the business of you want to be a reseller of ransomware. The left is a sign-up screen for ransomware as a service. You just click, do some basic customization of the ransomware. You can craft your own custom message, decide what kind of how much of a Bitcoin ransom you want to charge. On the right is the console that they've written. I think it's a JavaScript console, this particular one. Very slick thing that lets you, a panel that lets you monitor how all your infections are doing, how much time each victim has to pay up, how much you've collected, you know, so you can basically sit at home, figure out ways to get the ransomware onto someone's PC and let your profits roll in. So this sort of industrial, you know, taking the approach of the legitimate as-a-service industry is kind of a key reason we've seen this threat scale up the way it has, and we fully expect will continue to grow at an enormous rate. So this is an ongoing threat to your customers that's going to have increasing urgency. And that presents a fantastic opportunity for you to help defend them against it. I wanted to take a look at the WannaCry pandemic. A friend pointed out that this map reminds them of the map from the Terminator that showed the spread of evil artificial intelligence and robot army Skynet in taking over the future world presented in the Terminator movies. This is actually a real representation of how WannaCry spread around the world starting last Friday. Again, this hit 150 countries, tens of thousands of systems reported. Yeah, right, 300,000 is the right number there, reported machine compromises. And I said this is probably really severely underrepresents the real number. But you've seen the news. It brought down hospitals. It brought down telecoms operations in Spain, reservation systems for train systems, manufacturing, government offices, really spread with breathtaking speed. The current estimate I saw this morning is that the damages, not just the ransoms collected, but the business opportunity cost, et cetera, from the downtime would be $4 billion. And this is really just the first iteration of this particular attack. It wasn't particularly well implemented. It had a built-in kill switch that some security researcher accidentally stumbled on and activated over the weekend, which greatly reduced the potential impact of the first wave. But of course, the bad guys have already come up with new variants that are already spreading in the wild as we speak. There's no new kill switch, and they're coming up with new ways to do it as they realize that the way in to people's systems that they used in the first attack are being mitigated now that we figured out how it did it. What I'll spend some time talking about a little bit later is a new capability in Acronis Backup and Acronis Backup Cloud products called Active Protection, which is an extension to our backup agent that shuts down ransomware attacks, including WannaCry. But it's honed very specifically at identifying the behaviors common to all ransomware attacks. So it's not just a WannaCry remedy. It'll basically stop any kind of ransomware attack. And we'll get to more of that later. I want to spend some time talking generally about ways to defend against ransomware, and I expect that many of you have many of these capabilities that you can bring to your customers to sell a kind of a defense-in-depth sort of solution. I'm an old security guy, and anyone that tells you that they've got a magic bullet is selling you snake oil. You always have to take a multifaceted approach to defending your systems against people that are trying to steal information or extort money from you to for you to regain access to it. Number one approach is, you know, any security operations guy will tell you users are always the weakest link. We're always clicking on links that we shouldn't, opening attachments from strangers, visiting websites that we probably shouldn't. So it's really important to educate users on the ways that malware like ransomware gets onto your system. In case of malware, the most popular approach is email links and attachments. You craft a phishing email that makes it look like it's from a trusted source, get people to open it up. I'm in the process of selling a home, and I almost got snared with one of these the other day. It was a DocuSign document, and you know, between my broker and my lawyer, there's been a lot of these DocuSign documents flying around, and I almost went for it, and I was like, wait a minute, why is this at my work address? And then it looked like it came from somebody in Acronis Accounting, and I looked in the company directory. It's like, hey, there's no guy with that name. So you really always have to be wary. They're very clever at lulling you into a sense of false trust. And but there's tons of other ways. There's fake online ads that will take you to a website that will do a drive-by download of malware to your system. There's USB drives are a common infection vector these days. Certainly dubious websites where with pirated entertainment or pirated software, even sometimes legitimate adware packages will include malware like ransomware. So you got to really teach your users to always have their antennae up when they're online. There's a network-based approach that's very important, segmenting networks so that you can contain the spread of viruses like WannaCry that had a really nasty worm technology in it. That was the piece that was stolen from the NSA, was the worm propagation piece. And so if you use firewalling and virtual LANs, you can help contain the damage from an outbreak that's made a beachhead into your operation. Number 3, endpoint security measures like traditional antivirus are still very important. If anyone tells you antivirus is dead, that's because they want to sell you something new. Some of the new endpoint technology that is behavioral oriented is quite good, but traditional AV still has a long life left in it. Number 4, keep your software up to date. One of the reasons that WannaCry made the headway that it did as quickly as it did was that it was exploiting a vulnerability in Microsoft's SMB file sharing and printer sharing networking protocol. We actually knew about this vulnerability. Microsoft announced it a few months ago, but it takes a while for customers to run patches. So sometimes you make an update to your OS or your applications or your utilities, and it can break custom applications that you run your business on. So most companies have a hard time keeping up with software patching. But that is one way to make sure that you shut the door on ransomware like WannaCry that exploit these known vulnerabilities. I'll talk a little bit about how patches aren't going to defend you against zero-day exploits where the vulnerability isn't widely known. And that is important because that's kind of one of the most serious threats that traditional technologies cannot defend you against. Finally, and it's not just Acronis telling you this, every security person on the planet will say you have to back up, and you have to do it in a really smart way. So that means frequent backups. It means diversity of locations and media. So you want a locally based copy. You want a local copy that's offline so that ransomware that seeks out and tries to attack backup copies can't get to it. And you want to keep a copy in the cloud, which is another safe haven for these ransomware variants that try very hard to find shadow volume copies, any network drives that are mapped, even unmapped drives from your system. It will seek out and try to encrypt those as well. So backup is the most foolproof baseline kind of defense that you've got. Even if your systems get crushed by ransomware, you just restore to the most recent pre-infection point. You may lose some hours worth of work, but you won't have to pay the ransom. The other capability that you want in your backup solution is this one that that is unique to Acronis that we have just introduced this year, which is Active Protection, and that is, in a sense, it's a kind of a behavioral anti-ransomware measure that's really optimized to detect and stop the signature behaviors that are very specific to ransomware. So again, it's an extension to our backup agent. This is not a standalone product. It is part of our data protection solution. It's part of our backup offerings. The unique capability that it has is the ability to analyze, monitor behaviors that it sees on a laptop, desktop, or server to identify the behaviors that all ransomware variants, including WannaCry and including the more pedestrian stuff, always do. They're moving files around, starting to encrypt files, and so forth. In addition to identifying and shutting down ransomware processes, Active Protection also restores any files that have been damaged. And so this is kind of a clever thing about it. The way this diagram here shows, on the left, a virus, let's say ransomware, gets onto a desktop. Active Protection is in the background, keeping an eye on things. In the next step, ransomware starts to do its evil business, encrypting all the files on your local storage. So Active Protection is going to take notice of this. When encryption starts, Active Protection, its heuristic analysis, its intelligent algorithms say, this is suspicious, and prompts the user, are you trying to encrypt some files here, because something looks hinky here? And if the user says, nope, that's not me, it terminates the processes, then goes to its file cache and restores any files that have already been encrypted. There's usually a handful of files that get encrypted, 6 or 12 or 18 or 24 files that get encrypted before Active Protection positively identifies that something suspicious is going on. Here's an example of the kind of screens that you will see with Active Protection in action. So identifying the affected files, prompting you to block or trust the process that's going on, and then showing you that, in fact, it did recover the files that it knew were affected by the attack. So we like to boast about this capability. We do think it is unique in the data protection market, but we're not the only ones who have recognized the extraordinariness of this particular capability. So we've got a bunch of testing organizations, tech publications, general business publications that have recognized Active Protection as something new and really valuable. My favorite is the PC Mag one that says Best Ransomware Protection of 2017. Again, to reemphasize, this does not displace your traditional endpoint security mechanisms. It is a complementary capability to it. So you want to have your customers continue to use their antivirus tools of choice, but to complement those capabilities with Active Protection, which will protect their files, protect their backup files, and self-protect the backup agent itself. That restoral capability means that the affected individual gets back in operation in seconds, so near zero recovery time objective for it, and defense against all kinds of ransomware, including really scary, you know, NSA weaponized ones like WannaCry. Just want to talk briefly about the work that we've done here to support your marketing and sales efforts with Active Protection. So we've put together a huge battery of marketing assets and enablement tools. So things like an infographic as a kind of a high-level engagement sort of piece, a white paper that goes into some detail about how active protection works, case studies from Acronis customers and partners who have successfully recovered from ransomware attacks with our capabilities. We've got a use case that has a great timeline of what happens in a typical ransomware attack and how we helped a particular customer recover from it. We've put together a demand gen email campaign, sales presentation, elevator pitch, all the tools that you need. And we've segmented these sets of tools based on partner type. So if you're a cloud reseller or a service provider, we've got one set of tools for your world. And if you're a distributor or a traditional value-added reseller, there's a different set of tools for you. Two simple takeaways as you go talk to your customers who have been woken up to the issue of ransomware by the WannaCry attack. Backup is still the core of any defense against ransomware. It's the only thing that, no matter which of your other mechanisms fails, will get you out of the jam and prevent you from having to pay a ransomware and inviting further attacks. And again, the 3-2-1 rule of backup: premise-based backup, offline backup, cloud-based backup is really important, because ransomware is getting better at propagating through a network once it's established a beachhead on one machine. So all it takes is one unwary user to open up an attachment that they shouldn't, and ransomwares are getting increasingly sophisticated at trotting around your customers' entire IT operations. So that 3-2-1 rule of backup is really important there to make sure that you always have an unaffected backup copy from which to restore. The other basic lesson is get to know active protection, because this is a really unique capability that will stop any type of ransomware attack in its tracks and help and then very quickly recover any files that are damaged. Once again, I see this, no one wants to revel in the success of crime. But this does present an enormous opportunity for you to be a superhero to your customers, someone who can take the fear out of conducting business online away and let them move forward with confidence into the world, in spite of having users who don't always do the things that they're supposed to, and a malware industry that's getting increasingly sophisticated and industrialized and profitable. So a few simple takeaways. Go to our portal and register on it if you haven't already. Get the set of tools that we've put together specifically for your channel type, and take those tools and educate your customers and show them how the two of you can defeat this threat and move out into the world with confidence that they can do business online and not have to worry about the ransomware gangster enterprise. With that, I'll open the floor to questions. I expect we've gotten a bunch through the text chat, so please go ahead there.
James, we do have a couple of questions. The first one comes in on our chat line here. Do you have anything called a camouflage feature within the system that sits in the network of the data center? I think they're referring to the notion that some malwares now include a camouflage feature themselves. Did you want to take the answer on that?
Oh, yes, I understand what's going on here. So, yeah, this is one of those kind of great modular pieces of code that ransomware coders are constantly coming up with, and it's basically a masquerading capability, and that's designed to defeat signature-based defenses like antivirus. Because we're not, active protection is not a signature-based mechanism, it's behavioral. So it's not looking to see what the process, the little application that's running, what it looks like, but what it is doing. And it's based on what it's doing that it identifies it. And this makes it much more general purpose and much more adaptable to whatever new kind of behavior ransomware coders come up with, because ultimately they're going to move files around and encrypt them. And as long as that is their tactic, we've got an answer for shutting it down and recovering, repairing any damage that it's done.
Our next question, James, comes from Mike Bodamer, and he asks, how do we enable active protection if it's, is it already available through the current agent or is it an add-on? We are an MSP. Is it available through the MSP Cloud Agent? So they're asking, I guess, let's start with, our timelines for some upcoming releases and also talking about how the delivery mechanism works on our agent.
So the capability has been available in our consumer product, Acronis TrueImage, since January. We are adding it to our premise-centric Acronis backup product in the next release, which is literally days away. I think we're T-minus 12 days to the next release of Acronis Backup. It will be added to Acronis Backup Cloud for our service provider partners in the next release of that product, which is also imminent, I can safely say this summer. In terms of enablement, it becomes a part of the extension to the backup agent.
Yeah, and let me add a little bit to that. Hi, this is John McCarrick, I'm our evangelist. When you go into configure the module, it's a really cool, neat configuration, pretty simple and straightforward. It asks you, A, do you want to turn on the module within your agent? And so once you do, as long as you have the current agent, one of the new supported agents for this feature, you enable that feature in the agent, and then it'll ask you 3 questions. What do you want to have happen if there is an attack? The first is, do you want to stop the process? And of course, you can actually click yes, I'll just go ahead and stop the processes for me. Then it'll say, do you want to be notified? And then third, what do you want to do immediately after stopping and notifying? Do you want to restore directly from cache? And if you do click those 3 things, you can have the ransomware effectively stopped in its tracks right there and then. Additionally, we know some products have encryption as part of what they do, and sometimes we'll throw a false positive. So we do have the ability to whitelist certain processes, and there are some processes that we know always are bad news, and so we have a blacklist as well, so that you can add blacklisted processes to it as well. The great question. Thanks for the question. Next question says, I see you say active protection is unique to Acronis Backup Cloud. Our account manager told us, yes, told us that it isn't included yet, and that is true. We are including it as fast as possible. If you'd like to try it on the on-premise product, we do have our beta in the last day or 2 of its beta, but probably too late for anybody to jump into now. But we are imminently releasing it on our new products as soon as possible.
Yeah, we actually had great participation from our partners in our and customers in our beta program, so that thing's gotten a great workout before it goes to general release.
The next question is, so active protection needs to be installed in every system, right? Well, I mean, in no different way than we do now. All you have to do is enable it on the agent after the agents have been updated. And agents get updated from time to time. So that is a normal process. It says, is active protection just bundled with TrueImage, or is it available on Backup 12 for servers? We just covered that. Do we have a management console where I can manage I can manage all the systems. James, do you want to answer that one? The answer, of course, yes.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I lost a little bit of it.
That's fine. Do we have a management console where I can manage all of the systems?
When you mean all Acronis products?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a feature that we've been working to for some time, and is part of the next major release, which is a unified and touch-friendly console for all the features and capabilities of our data protection products.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, especially the cloud resellers, so we are later in the year going to allow for Files Cloud and cloud storage as well on our cloud platform. So you want to be looking out for that information coming out soon. Hi, if the client has anti-malware solutions such as FireEye, Fortinet, Sandbox, which also detects files based on behavioral analysis, how will Active Protection provide additional support?
Right. So those are all useful kind of capabilities, but as we've seen, ransomware is usually a step or two ahead of the arms race. This is ever the way. The bad guys have an advantage of punching first, and the security industry has to counterpunch. So, for example, there are ransomware variants that are capable of defeating sandboxing measures because they look for signs that they're in a sandbox environment, and if they are, then they go dormant. They lull the sandbox capability into trusting it, and then when they know that they're out of an isolated virtual machine environment, that's when they activate. So I think you want to consider this as another complementary capability to those products.
And as we were mentioning a minute ago, if there's any conflicts between relative processes going on, we obviously have our whitelisting in there. Kevin Boo asked, where is the cache agent getting its restorer located? No, they're referring to, hey, you said you can restore from cache. Where is that located at?
Right, and there are three options there. There is on the machine, there is local storage, and there's in the cloud. And presumably there's a step there that, you know, it checks one, then the other, then the other.
Does it work on VMware or Hyper-V? Again, from my, actually this one's from Cornelius Van Hook. Does it work on VMware or Hyper-V?
I believe the initial capability is Windows only. I'm not certain of that.
Yeah, Windows only inside, so insofar as each one of those VMs has Windows OS installed on it, the answer would be yes. When it is released for Backup Cloud, will it have reporting? Will it have reporting to notify us that it had to revert using Active Protection for an MSP customer? If Active Protection reverts a file, we would want to know so that we can find the root cause of triggering Active Protection and address that. So the question Mike's asking, you know, essentially, hey, I've got, you know, customers who we do all the services for, a managed service provider. They don't want to know about all of this stuff. They just want it to work. You know, is there a reporting notification back to the MSP as part of the product?
I honestly don't have that level of detail of our logging and reporting capabilities in Acronis Backup Cloud, but we can follow up directly, as we will, with any questions that we can't answer today or don't get to before our time runs out.
I believe that the agent does report it back into the alert system back within the product, but I will double check that. All right, I'm going down to our chat window. So if you've been putting things in the chat, I'm going back to the chat here now. Is Active Protection an add-on cost for Acronis Cloud for MSPs, or is it included in the new release of the agent? How is it activated? That's not in the Q&A. And so as we just mentioned a few minutes ago, I think we answered this, and that is there's no additional cost. It is just simply a feature of the product, and that it will be released as we release new agents and, of course, have that additional feature turned on for our cloud service providers and MSPs as well, right? We are reselling Acronis Cloud. Is Active Protection now part of it or a separate product? Again, I think we just answered that question. It's part of the system. And then we have the question of and at what prices? For free, it's included. Will Active Protection have a cost? Is it part of the backup? Lots of questions about. The good news is it's a free add-on, guys. So that's where we're headed with it. Maybe we should have charged for it. You let us know. Have to apply back. Do you have to apply backup before activating Active Protection feature? Moreover, in case those encrypted file was not covered in the backup plan, those encrypted files can be rolled back from Active Protection. I think that what they're going after here is, A, do you need to back up before you enable the feature? You should be backing up on a regular basis anyway, but this will only involve in a change to the agent itself, which we do on a regular basis already. And if you guys haven't been updating your agent, there is a little thing in the console to help you know whether you're up to date. And you should be up to date all the time. It's always a good idea. And the second part of the question was, in the case of there was an encrypted file that wasn't covered in the backup plan, can you be rolled back from before Active Protection? A regular part of backup is that, and one of the one of the cool features of Acronis Backup is that we have the ability to do full and incremental backups, and it's probably our highest recommended way of handling your backups. We have lots of different ways that you can handle it, but because we do incrementals, you can go back to literally the last backup before you had your issue, regardless of when that was, before Active Protection, after Active Protection. So even right now, for those of you who do not have Active Protection, we have a great solution for you already with regard to recovering from somebody who has one of these malware attacks. If they have done incrementals, and I honestly recommend, just so you know, that you do daily backups for everything that you can, and then you do even hourly backups for the really important things, whether it's a database that your company runs on, or whether it's your most important documents file on your personal PC. All those most important things should be regularly backed up, really frequently, because we only use the things that change between the backups, so the amount of data that's being transferred is very, very low. And so if you've done that, your customers are already well protected against any ransomware or virus, because they can literally step back an hour and get to the most important data if they followed that precaution. What we're now introducing, of course, is that we're going to have preventative maintenance. Hey, this thing stops the problem before you've had it. But even if they've had the problem, it's only a minor annoyance, not a complete disaster, as it is for so many companies right now. I hope that answered the question. Sorry, missed the release dates. We use Backup 12, Update 3 on VMware. We're backing up multiple VMs. How does Active Protection work with that, and when will it be available? And so this is Backup 12 is going to come out in the beginning of June here. If you're a partner of ours, you should already be invited to launch webinar. You should be attending that shortly. And we're talking about only about 12 days until launch of Backup 12. Most of my customers have Acronis installed on servers only. Does it need to be installed on all workstations? Yeah, that's a good idea. Kent Miller sent this in. You absolutely should encourage your customers to be backing up not only their servers but their workstations. It's a really good idea. Endpoints are often the weak point in the entire system, and if somebody has, especially this WannaCry, came in on an endpoint, then if it ended up affected in the servers, didn't matter that you had it on the servers first. You should probably be protecting the endpoints.
Yeah, it's worth noting that WannaCry really targeted servers as the initial incursion point, but most ransomware attacks bust in through an end user's PC or laptop. The most common infiltration techniques are with endpoints, not servers.
All right, this one's a little bit longer of a question. Take a scenario where a customer has one server with Acronis Backup installed and a number of workstations that store or access data on the servers. Workstations do not need to be backed up as they have no data stored on them. In order to protect the server, we won't have to install Acronis Backup on each workstation for the active protection to be available, or will active protection be available as a separate piece of software for this type of scenario? I.e., if you're not putting our software on your end stations, will there be active protection available for them? The answer is no. You really should use the backup software on all those solutions. Of course, we will have it on your server if that's the place where you've installed it, but it's really probably a very good idea to put some backup on your endpoints, even if they don't typically store data, even if they're somewhat of a dumb terminal. If they're a real PC and you have people putting things on them, storing things on them that are personal to them, enabling those sorts of things, you should probably have those protected. All right, I'm going back over the QA, see if there's any more over there. Thank you for all the questions, guys. This has been great. Nope, that is the end of the questions in the Q&A and in the chat areas. Thank you for your participation with that. Did you want to wrap up there, James?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks once again, everybody, for taking the time to join this session. You've got the contact info of your Acronis team. If you have any kind of follow-up questions, once again, I encourage you to get to the portal and take a look at the tools that we've put together for you, and go out there and be a superhero to your customers.
Thank you so much, Jim, for that wonderful presentation. We wanted to thank you very much for your time, and as Jim said, any questions that we're not able to answer, we will do so as soon as we can. Please note that you'll receive the replay of this webinar following this presentation. And we also wanted to leave you with a little bit of something special. Acronis Active Partners get a 50% discount for internal use for Acronis Backup as part of the partner program benefits. So please take advantage of this incentive and protect your virtual host, servers, and workstations. And with that, thank you very much, and we'll close the presentation for today.